Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Node.js release working group. Today is 26 June 2025. And before we start with the agenda here, do anyone has any announcements, anything to share?
Node.js 24 went out 2 days ago. Node.js 24.3.0, and I think the same applies to Node.js 22, right?
And also
Yes,
Node
22.17.0.
Awesome. Anything else? Cool. Well, if not, we can start with the small agenda here. So first item will be add schedule for Node 25 and Node 26. Anyone wants to start with that?
Yeah, just I added it to the agenda, so
Right.
in case we want to change something, I try to use the same date as for 23 and 24.
I think for if we use the same for 24, it might be slight different from the date we normally use because 24 went out with a week or two of delay. So maybe
Yeah,
we should use Node.js 22 as reference.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think
Actually, yeah, I did.
I think I
Yeah,
asked
we
for
charged.
that change,
Yeah, we charged
and,
something.
and it was made. So I think it's okay now. It's back in April.
Okay, and try to take some notes here too. So Antoine, let me just write a note here. Can you say it again?
So yeah, so I took the date from 22 and 23
Mhm.
and applied them for 25 and 26. And if
Okay.
no one has objection, let's land this.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe it's worth leaving it open sometime just to see
I mean,
if
it's been
anyone's
open for 3 weeks.
okay. That's probably fine then.
Yeah. Okay, merging it.
Okay, got approved. So
Oh,
oh, already ended. Awesome. Cool.
ice first condition.
Yeah, and then next is the release plan. So starting with 24. Let me see. Yeah, I would normally share my screen here so that we can look at the table. Do anyone wants to share? I just have a problem with Zoom here. I didn't give the permission yet. If anyone wants to share so that we can look at the table while we speak. Otherwise,
I
it
think
looks like, go ahead.
we just need someone for next month release of Node.js 24. Usually it's easy. So I'll include my name to the next one. And if someone wants to volunteer for the next Node.js 24.5, I guess, that also would be great.
So wait a minute. We're looking here. So looking at the table here would be the first July, Rafael?
No, actually, it needs to change because we have delayed that release. So
Oh,
let
okay.
me change it. A1. Let me check one thing first.
Yeah. Thanks, Antoine, for sharing. I can see a screen.
So it should be in July 8th.
Okay, like it's dead.
So I'm changing the date now.
Mhm.
And then I think we can remove the 15 one and just keep the
Mm.
29
Right.
and 2 releases per month.
That reminds me. Ryan opened an issue about he wants to take down the macOS Walker cluster for an upgrade. So he's open to when we schedule that. But yeah, as we're scheduling releases, we'll try and find a time when we're not falling over ourselves to put a release out.
Okay.
Maybe the first week of July.
Yeah, if we're not doing releases next week, then maybe next week would be a good opportunity to do it. I'm not too fussed when we do it. I just, don't want us to start spreading releases out over next month where we then have no no window of yes. I mean, if we're happy with that, we can tell Ryan, if he's able to do it next week. I mean, I guess next week is Independence Week in America, so I don't know if Ryan's around next week, but we can suggest it.
We also have Canada Day.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, here you go. So maybe not next week. So is it going to affect both the CI and the release runner?
Yes, because we currently only have Orca as a macOS. All of our macOS infra is now hosted on Mac Stadium on their Orca cluster. So before we used to have a few machines that Neoform hosted for us, but that ended last year, I think. So Neoform are no longer hosting machines for us. So we actually have this single provider for Macs, and yeah, that does mean then that when the whole account is upgraded, the whole thing is out for a couple of hours, or however long it takes to do the upgrade. So that would be both the release CI and the test CI.
Yeah, I think Ryan says 4 hours. Yeah. Okay.
Well, how about we suggest next week? And if you can't do next week, I don't know what the schedule for the others are, but like if we're doing like the 8th and then was it 29th for Node 24, then that gives us a couple of weeks in between those dates. That we could sort of perhaps target. Okay.
Sounds good. Oh, where is Ryan based though?
In the US. No, that's
in the
why
US? Yeah, so it might be impacted.
Pacific.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Well, let's see. Yeah, let's see what he says there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, moving on to 22. Right, with the one you made the last release, right, Antoine?
Yes. 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if there are volunteers, that's great. Otherwise, we can move on.
Yes, I think yes. Just we need a volunteer for next month. So
I need to update the release date in this one, but I can do the next 20 in July. So we need to update the thing. The known issue with 20 is that it gets increasingly harder to release stuff. The more we approach the end of life, it gets more harder and harder. And this one was pretty hard to do. It took 2 weeks. So hopefully the next one will not be this hard.
was on Monday, right?
Yep, Monday.
I don't know if we need to plan for another release for 20.
Yeah, it's gonna be end of July, August. I don't know, but there is one commit that people are looking forward to see released on the require ESM thing. So I don't want to wait too long. Oh, there is a security release.
Not announced it yet.
Okay. What if I drop that commit on the staging branch and it gets released?
It's fine. The security release won't necessarily include it.
Usually we don't include anything else. That
Unless we need it, yeah.
Yep.
But if the intention is to put that out in a future 20 release, we can, and it's ready, we can put it on the staging branch, and then we'll just need to rebase it
Rebase, yeah.
any security releases.
We just need
I
to.
think if it doesn't need a backport, or if the backport's open and it's landable, just land it, I guess, on the staging branch, and then it will be there for whoever picks up the next normal non-security 20 release.
Okay, well, if it does not go out in the security release, then I can just wait. Like, that doesn't matter. But
yeah, let's just make sure that we won't issue a regular release with very close to the security release, because it makes my job slightly difficult, because I need sometimes the proposal is ready and I need to rebase it again. But yeah, it was not announced the date yet. So as soon as we have that coordination ready, we will announce and we can coordinate it better.
okay, so I guess the next 20 release depends on the security release, and what right after that we can do another release. Okay, but yeah, I can volunteer for it, no problem.
So far, we had one release per month for the 20.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the same for 22 when it's active.
And you're saving the data, Antoine.
It's even better than the 22.
Yeah, true. Oh yeah, we skipped March. Yeah.
I think that's the end of the regular agenda, but I have mentioned in the issue, if we can briefly talk about the 953.
Yeah, let me put that in the minutes here, because I just don't have in the minutes right now. So yes, good. Oh,
It's just it's a
this
long
again.
thread.
Yeah, this is an old
again.
one. Right.
This is the old one. Yesterday I was looking to my backlog, and I remember that issue, and I sent a message there. I don't want to discuss that extensively, because it will be a long run, but I just want to point a few from a different perspective. I agree that if we reduce the amount of major release, it will make the development harder, because we need to wait a few more cycles to test and use several major version. It will be hard also to backport things, and I imagine that the feedback from the community will also be slightly delayed for several major features, but we need to also understand that most of the features we do, they are several minor, and it doesn't change too much in case of several minor, several major, and not just the fact that having more two major releases per year is challenging for companies that like if they want to use the recent versions, although they just go to the even versions. It's hard to keep track of recent changes. I've been in contact with the community for some time, and they say that, oh, I'm using Node.js 20 because Node.js is changing every day. Every day has a new release, and it's very hard to keep on track because I have I have product to build, and I can't really understand the change logs and things like that. Uh, I'm not saying to reduce the release time, but I feel that we are reaching to a point that we might want to revisit this pattern because I feel that it's been very hard to find releasers to do release, and we know that a few months ago it was very hard to find someone to release Node.js 22, Node.js 20. And it was always a problem. It's very hard, and with the automation we have solved some of the problem, but it's still we need a volunteer to do the release. And when we have a lot of active release lines, it means we need more people to engage. We need more volunteers to perform releases, and I feel that it's time to think about it again. If we, I feel that we might want to reduce the time of the LTS support, or we should think about a different option. I don't have a perfect answer here. I'm just pointing to the problem that I think we are doing too much, and without the Alpha Omega funding, the security release would be very, very difficult.
Right.
What I want to say is that I think the easy part that we can probably shape off a little bit is to have the overlap. When a new release goes end of life, there is a point where we have 4 release lines. We can probably like make it so when there is a new one, the other one goes end of life. But the like from my point of view, the biggest problem is that when we have like a very old release, so if there is a lot of time, it gets so much harder to backport stuff to Node 20, and like the closer we get to the end of life, the harder it gets,
Yes.
and like the like nobody wants to do the 20 release, I assume, because it's hard. So like in my case, my company is sponsoring my time, so I don't care. But as a volunteer, it's like it's a lot of work to do. So if there is a shorter lifespan, so it goes instead of going end of life in April, it goes end of life in October, then we mitigate that a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say to talk about the same thing. The maintenance window of the non-LTS releases should be shortened. Is it what you were referring to, Marco? I was a bit confused by your October example.
Yeah, no, in general, we see that like in October we will have Node 24 LTS, and we also make Node 25, so we'll have Node 20, 22, 24, and 25. If as we create Node 25, we remove Node 20, then we have 3 release lines instead of 4. Otherwise, we have 6 months with 4 release lines that need security release, blah blah blah. If we make the lifespan a bit 6 months shorter of a release, then it's easier to it's less
Totally
release.
agree. Yeah, that was my point. And also for non-LTS, so for example, 23, we probably could change it to say we're gonna maintain it until 24 is out, because the security release that we did for 23, I don't know, do we have the download number for it? It's probably very low. So yeah, that would probably be a better improvement, reducing the maintenance window, than reducing the number of major releases, in my opinion.
Yeah, I believe that this is Before changing if we should do one or two major releases per year, we should define that. I think everybody agrees that the time we have for LTS support is being it's been very hard to maintain, especially when, as Marco mentioned, when it goes very close to the end of life, it's been very, very difficult to create a release because it's a tons of conflicts, and also when we are doing regular release, it's in maintenance mode, so you can decide exactly what can go out, and it's like easier, you know, like if we decide, okay, let's not do that release, it's fine. But when we talk about security release, we must do the security release, regardless if that language release line, it's very hard it conflicts a lot. So it's been, if you look to the Node.js recent security release, we have to wait Node.js 18 to go end of life to perform a security release, because it was very difficult to upgrade LLTP on Node.js 18, for instance. So this is one of the problems that is very hard to solve when a version goes it's very close to go and end of life, and no one is doing recent releases on that.
But I don't think in that case it would have helped, other than if we'd had that security problem like 6 months earlier, we still would have had the problem of upgrading LLHTTP on that version of it, because we've actually got to assemble a major boundary on LLHTTP. So the fact that it happened near the end of life, well, you know, that would be the same no matter how short. If we shorten the life, then it will still be the same problem if the security problem came up, you know, a week before or a month before the shortened life. It isn't so much the lifespan; it's just the fact that it's on a different, it's on a much earlier Semver boundary.
But it went to the different approach, which is reducing the amount of major releases per year, because I assume that the problem appeared because Node.js 18 had LLTP version 6, Node.js 20 LLTP version 8, and Node.js 22 LLTP version 9. And then we could upgrade from 8 to 9, but not 6 to 9, which was 3 major releases. And I believe that if we had just one major release, it would be unlikely that we would bump too much the LLTP version in one Semver major release.
No, I don't believe that would be the case unless you drastically shortened the LTS life cycle for, you know, by at least a year, which I think would be incredibly unpopular, because most sort of people, well, not most, I won't use the word most. Anecdotally, I've heard that people would rather that the LTS queries were longer, which, you know, obviously I don't think we can cater for. But that seems to be the push in terms of what people like. Yeah, we see that one of the problems we have is people using old versions of Node because they don't want to be upgrading. So yeah, it's a balancing act we have. But I do think that, you know, the problem with the Semver majorness is it doesn't matter how many majors you pump. It depends on the nature of the breaking change. So the problem we had is I think that LHTTP with the version 6 or whatever it was in Node 18, going up to the next Semver major, even if that is still not the one in Node 22 or 24, that was breaking enough to make it impossible to do the security update. So it isn't so much how many majors between what you had and where you're going to, it's what were the breaking changes in those Semver major boundaries. And some of them were like, we're doing this out of caution, but some of them were, no, this is a fundamental difference in how this dependency works. So yeah,
that's correct. Possibly that's not the best
no,
best view to you know, like,
I think we should have the discussion, and you know, yeah, preferably in the issues that we're not all scrabbling for recordings to watch back and say see what people said. But I do think that we need to be sure of what the desired outcomes are from our point of view, but balanced with what the community is looking for, and then see what makes sense. Things like how many release lines we're maintaining at any one time, I think that's a valid thing to look at. That schedule that was in the PR that I think Antoine's merged now, or the one in the release repository that has the schedule, that will visualize. If you look at that and draw a vertical line at some point on the timeline, you'll see how many bars are currently there. And like as people say, in some worst case scenarios, it's like 5 releases, and in better scenarios, it's like 3 or 4. So yeah, that is something we can look at to maybe look at overlaps and things. I think in terms of long-term supports at the moment, we're basically adding a new long-term support line every year, and then rolling them off every 3 years, I think. Is that right? It's like a 1 year of active and then 18 months of maintenance, but it's 6 months of current before it becomes LTS, so it's like a total of 3 years.
Yeah, so what I would propose is to shorten the maintenance and have more on the active LTS part, and I think we can achieve that probably by having the odd version last, instead of 6 months, 1 year, and then we do we have a bit longer on the odd version. That I think we can, there is a way to schedule things so that we have less maintenance and more active, because it makes the life easier, because I think maintenance is where the pain is.
I think that's my turn. So one thing we probably should have in mind, if we want to reduce the LTS maintenance window, is how we can communicate that without making it sounds like we pushing folks to the ESP program, because that would be not fun conversation for sure. I'm not sure. I get the idea of having longer current releases help here, because like you said, it's really the maintenance where the burden is, and the maintenance we can decide it to currently it's 1 month of maintenance for odd releases, 18 months for even releases. It's probably where we should look for the pain, not for a new releases, I don't think. New majors.
So on the maintenance period, for current releases, I think having a month of maintenance at the end of current is fairly new, in terms of, I don't remember doing this when I first started in release, that the current release kind of ended at the end of April. And then I think maybe because it was kind of aligned with, so for historically, the current release was always treated separately from the long-term support releases, because long-term support, this release working group was originally set up for long-term support releases, and current releases were kind of managed separately, and then everything was merged together into a release working group. The long-term support releases, we actually shortened the active period. So it used to be 18 months of active followed by a year of maintenance, and we swapped that round to be 1 year of active and then 18 months of maintenance. And the reason for that is that we actually decided at that time that it was easier to have things in maintenance, because you got to cherry pick or be more selective as to what landed in a maintenance release. So if there were conflicts and things, you could just say this isn't going to land. Or any features that active things, we would just say this is not going to land. Now we can have a discussion again if we want to try and use automation more for the active. We're always going to have a problem that if the reason that things don't land is because of a December major, then that's not going to be easily solved by altering the active maintenance boundary. That problem is going to be there's a December major change that can't land in this version of Node. Therefore, anything in main or current that depends on that December major or modify something that's already been modified by that major, that's not going to land cleanly on the older release lines. And there's not much we can do on that front because, you know, we do follow December, so a major is a major and doesn't go back into the earlier lines.
I wonder, do we have a policy set that allow us to reduce the time of LTS versions, or these will be this is against some of our policies, and we need to inform, I don't know, with 2 or 3 years of previous when we change the release policy. I'm not sure about that.
I would prefer to not change the length of a long-term support release that's already out. So if we're talking about changing support periods,
for futures,
that would be future releases. And other than that, yeah, that then becomes a challenge of communication. I think the only language we have is some language around release dates, is it? I think we had something, or I don't know if we still have it. I think there may have been something that said like release dates had to be for release dates for December majors had to be set like a month before release or something like that. Or was that a long-term support release? There was some sort of language that we used to have in the README, but other than that, it was like, this is the release policy. And then, you know, when we changed things, like we changed the active and maintenance periods, that was just PRs into the README, but then we had to be quite you know, communicate that in the change logs and blogs when we did the December majors and said, like, you know, this version of Node is going to be long-term support in October, but, you know, we've made these changes to policy.
Okay.
On a procedural point of view, it is one of the things that is delegated to our working group, so we can decide that with our working group. I mean, I think we, you know, should try and make sure that, you know, it's not going to upset too many people. But that is one of the in the charter for this working group, the release policy and schedule is one of the things that was delegated to us.
So I guess as a next steps, we could like come up with like, because from what I see, the active current part is being handled very well by the automation. So a lot of the like the pain has moved for like that has become easier. So now I think security release and maintenance release is where we can like improve.
I think we have agreed that I think the only what we have agreed from this meeting or from this session is that everybody agrees that the LTS support should be shortened if we want to reduce the maintenance burden. So with that in mind, I think we should create a proposal that everybody's from the release group, working group agrees. And then once we have done, we should bring that up to the TSC and see what's the next steps. Does that make sense?
No, well,
I would like to see the proposal. I don't agree with the record statement. I would like to see the proposal before I make a decision.
So sorry, I couldn't hear.
No, I mean, sorry. Yeah, let me just. I had just one point. I mean, it's fine to bring the proposal. I think that's. We need to read it, understand it, and make sure I'm at face value like this. I'm not sure I fully agree, right? So I would like to see the proposal, but like Richard said, I think it is something that the working group is tasked with. So maybe we can consult with other people, right? I think it's the interest of the entire community, but at the end of the day, I think it might be up to us to make the decision too.
Okay, so to clarify, the next steps would be create a proposal, and we, as a release working group, accepts that proposal, and then we moving on. It is. I don't know exactly. I mean, I know that we have discussed a lot of good things here, and we are going to a good directions, in my opinion. But I don't know exactly what would be the next steps, because I don't want to discuss the same thing again in the next meeting. You know.
Yeah, I think if someone comes up with a proposal, we can build consensus around it, and at this point we can present it maybe to the TSC or some other group if you want external validation.
Cool. Yeah, but I see your point, Rafael. Like, let's make kind of, if you're willing to champion it, yeah, I think we need to stay on top of it so that it doesn't just fall into this loop of eternal discussion and no decision making, right? Like, I think, yeah.
I will talk with my company, because you know, when we reduce the LTS time, it impact companies as well. So I will talk with Node source and see what they think about that. If they believe that this we are going to a good to the right direction, and depending on what they say, I can champion it. But I still need to discuss with them.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good idea. Just anecdotally, when we cut the Node 16 lifecycle short to align with the OpenSSL end of life, that was very unpopular with customers and the companies I was talking to. So, you know, we have a little bit of data points on that, but part of that was that we'd already communicated the life cycle and then shortened it after doing the, we'd already released Node 16 and said it was going to have this life cycle, and then we shortened it afterwards, and that was really unpopular because people have planned around, what we'd said up front. So yeah, it's just, it would be good to talk to people again, but I do get the feeling that companies tend to prefer longer life cycles. And they're a bit funny. They normally say like no changes, and then what they actually mean is they don't want changes apart from the changes they do actually want in terms of features and stuff.
Okay, anything else on this topic? Yeah, if not, I think we had one last item from Ulysses, but I don't know if anyone is familiar with it. Let me see. Oh no, it was just the scheduled downtime, right? Richard, I think you already mentioned it, right? You even left a comment there, right? Or maybe Antoine left a comment.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's all for today. Thank you all for joining.
Okay.
And I hope to see you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.